Okay, so before I start this video, disclaimer, I might discuss some things that are a little triggering, so I'm just warning you ahead of time. And yeah, also if I'm looking like in weird directions, I'm just looking in the mirror because I'm going to do my makeup and talk about a little bit of who I am, my past, and my future. So, hi, I'm Vera Rose. And where do I start? So I wanted to do this because I was thinking about 100 Gardens. So I want to talk about why I even thought of this plan. So first of all, let me start out by saying I have been severely depressed since I could remember, like 5 maybe, and that's like the first thought I ever had, like really, really, really bad. And it went untreated because who believes a child, a 5-year-old, when they're talking about how sad they are? Most adults, even now that we're talking more about mental health, would just be like, okay, what are you upset about? Well, hopefully now people are more wise to, mental health and would get child help, even if they're really, really young. But yeah, I've been suffering from very, very bad chronic depression and really bad anxiety. And when I say anxiety, I think there's 5 types of anxiety, and I have all of them really bad. So I've been just living with that, first of all. So, of course, having really bad depression untreated for years and years and years, it escalates and it creates, like, you're not going to have a great life if you're dealing with these mental health issues. And I didn't have a really good life. Like, I just stopped giving up, and around middle school, like, I stopped caring about my life. I just didn't care. Like, everything around me was just so dark, and I really, really, really struggled. So push forward to 2012. I had moved to New York City for school, which I failed at. I barely even went to a class. And I really did I started going back and forth between Rochester and New York, just suffering from homelessness. And when I say homelessness, I don't mean like couch hopping, like most of the time, like I slept outside a lot. And 2012, my first time coming back to Rochester, I was staying with my mother. And one day I was walking in the street and I saw this empty lot, and I just had like a flash. And I thought, there were moments in New York City where I felt like a little more inspired and a little more hopeful about life. And I saw this empty lot near my mom's house. It was, just abandoned, filled with litter. And I was just thinking, like, is there so much land in this city, especially in places where people need a little bit more inspiration, like the low income areas? Why is there so much land just being not being used? And I thought about growing a garden. So I think I took like the first initial necessary steps to grow a garden. Like, I Googled it, I found out the city owned lots you can get a permit from and garden them. And I got the permit. I think that same year, 2012, I got like some simple tools and I started like thinking about, but I kind of failed. I was overwhelmed. I had no idea how to garden, anything about gardening. So it kind of just like went nowhere. You know what? I'm going to come back after I do my eyebrows. Okay, so first of all, I know my eyebrows look a little askew. That's because I have a mole here, but I'll fix that later. So I don't know exactly where I left off. So I was a sad little girl, came back, saw the gardens. It didn't work out that year. And I've never stopped like wanting to grow gardens. It started out with just that one garden near my mom's house that I just didn't know what I was doing. And again, like, I have really bad social anxiety. I have problems with reaching out to people and asking for help. And, I didn't know how to achieve this thing by myself. So it always stayed in my heart and in my mind, and it was like, I was always optimistic, even though I was really depressed. Like, the reason why I'm still here really is because I know it sounds kind of cuckoo or whatever, but I always had this voice in my head like, oh, one day it's going to be better. One day it's going to be better. One day it's going to be better. So I was like, all right. Like, I'm waiting. I'm like, when is this going to happen? So, yeah. So all these years, that was 2012, approximately. I'm not sure. I think it was 2012. So all these years go by, I'm still experiencing homelessness from time to time. I'm still really depressed. I'm still really just not doing well. I'm not adulting very well. And 2019 comes around, and just a whole bunch of stuff happened to me within the span of a couple months. I just got in my first apartment ever that I got by myself. Like, I paid the bills for it, and and just life happened so quickly, and I got really depressed again, like pretty bad. And at that point, I didn't know how to cope, so I ended up getting evicted, and that made everything even worse. And oh my goodness, that time was so bad. So and at that time, like, I also like abused drugs and alcohol, to like, which most people in my situation does or did. So going approximately 4 years back from the time in 2019, I was staying with my mom again at this time. I believe I was living with her, and I was in my sister's room randomly watching YouTube videos, and this video came up of this man walking across the country, and I'm just like, what? He did what? Like, that's so cool. And I thought about walking across the country back then, and I had a friend that was just like, straight up, don't do that, you're gonna get killed. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I put it out of my mind. So flash back forward to 2019, when I was going through this thing, I knew, like, again, it's going to be some things that are triggering. I knew I couldn't unalive myself. I thought about it many times. I attempted it many times. But again, that voice that's like, it's going to be better one time, at one day, at one point, it's going to be better. You can't do this. It's stupid. You're going to end up somewhere worse. Like, my, karma's going to make me end up somewhere even worse than I was. So that I was getting evicted. I had already gone to court. I had 2 days before I had to leave. It was May 1st before I had to leave that apartment, and I decided I'm gonna walk across the country. This is something I could do. I could finally feel like I achieved something. I don't have any other choice. I'm not going back to a homeless shelter, because going back and forth to the homeless shelter is just a terrible situation. And I could do a whole nother video about homelessness and the pipeline to, like, extreme homelessness, where, you've just lost all hope, and how easily that happens from somebody that's going through a hard time and, loses their home. But yeah, I did not want to go back to the homeless shelter after that. And I was like, I'm just gonna do that. Like, what else am I gonna do? Like, I'm just gonna, like, why not? So that was 2 days before I actually started walking. And yeah, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't physically prepared at all. I wasn't mentally prepared. I wasn't financially prepared. I walked all the way across, well, I didn't walk all the way across the country. To clarify, I didn't intend to hitchhike, but okay, so I walked to Buffalo straight the first time. Then I got injured. My friend got me an Uber ride all the way back to Rochester. I went back to my mom's house for 2 weeks. That ended up being terrible. So I started walking again, and I got a few rides until I inevitably got injured, and I had to stop walking in Nebraska. So I didn't walk completely across the country. I wish I could have, but I didn't. And thankfully to whom I call my Nebraska mom and dad, my last day walking, I got stopped by this couple because I couldn't walk. Like I first started feeling pain in Iowa. Like I'm constantly either going down a hill or up a hill for 3 days straight. I'm not gonna make it on this ankle. And by the time I got to Nebraska this one day, thank God I got stopped by this couple because Ron is a retired running coach, and he looked at my ankles and he was like, "Girl, you probably have bursitis. If you don't stop walking, you're never gonna walk again." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I just need to rest a couple days." He was like, "No, you have to stop. Like, you have to stop right now." And they kind of forced me. They kind of forced me to get on a train to Colorado and go to a doctor. And then the doctor was like, "Yeah, you have bursitis. You have to stay off." So my walk officially ended in Nebraska. When I got to California, I did end up walking from like West Hollywood to Venice Beach, but besides that, yeah, I didn't finish. But yeah, I walked across the country initially because I was depressed. I was about to be homeless, and that was my only, like, the only thing I could think of besides going to a homeless shelter, which just wasn't an option for me because that was going to make me even sadder. This eyeshadow is so cheap, but I refuse to throw it out, and I'm gonna finish the whole thing. I'm not gonna throw this out, but it sucks. But yeah, me initially walking across the country wasn't for 100 Gardens. That was an afterthought, really. When I first started walking, I realized it was Mental Health Awareness Month, and I thought, yeah, like I should be walking for mental health awareness because I suffer greatly from mental health. And I like walking across the country, have a lot of time thinking. I was like, how do I walk for mental health? Like, what is the end goal? Like, what is my message? Then I thought about it again. I remember the whole garden idea, and I realized I only noticed that garden because I realized that if I'm noticing that this land is just like sitting here and it's kind of bumming me out, I know it's happening to other people. And I just feel like your environment can greatly affect how you feel mentally, especially. And a lot of people might not be thinking about it because we're all just like, we have to just work and focus on, keeping a roof over our head. And we're not really thinking about the greater good in the community and how these things affect you. So I realized that me growing these gardens can help people's mental health more than me just, talking about mental health. So I started a GoFundMe, and I started, talking about how gardens can be helpful to people that are, struggling. And like, why not? Like, our food industries are terrible, and we've all lost like all our knowledge, our generations, our centuries of knowledge of agriculture. Like, thinking about it 100 years ago, more people knew about where their food comes from. Now people think about where their food comes from and they're just like, the grocery store. Like, we should know how to grow our own food. And I personally feel like that is a very, very important thing, to know where your food comes from, how to grow your food. That knowledge is really important. And especially just because you live in a city, you should, that doesn't mean you shouldn't know that. And the craziest thing to me is like people in the middle of the country that's like surrounded by farmland also don't know where their food comes from because all they grow is corn. Like, it's an issue even in the middle of the country. Like, I've been to so many towns where people are like, yeah, we can really benefit from gardens. And I'm like, you're surrounded by land. Like, it's crazy that how we're treated by the food industry. And it's like, don't worry about it. We got you. We'll, put the food in boxes and put it in the store, and it'll be easy for you. Just forget about it. And then they're like pumping us full of crap that we don't need. That's like killing us. Like, that was my biggest revelation. Was like, how do you guys not like what's the point of living out here? You might as well go to, the Bronx if you're not gonna garden. I feel like there's more gardens in Brooklyn in the Bronx than there is in Iowa, and that's sad. So yeah, that's really why I walked across the country, and it wasn't initially about 100 gardens, but it became about 100 gardens, and here we are now. So as soon as I got back in October, little after the 1st of October of 2019. Still injured, but I started working. I had interviews lined up on my way back from California, and I started working like a few days after I got back. Still injured. Like, I probably made my injury much worse because I'm still injured to this day because I was working 2 jobs as soon as I got back. Hopeful that even though I only raised $622 on the GoFundMe and a few more $100 just from people walking past me, or people that I came across. I put way too much foundation on just now. Ooh, I'm a ghost. I was just like gonna start working, get myself into my own place immediately, and everything's gonna be great. I'm gonna grow these gardens. It's gonna be a whole movement. I'm gonna change the lives of so many people. Get kids involved and interested in growing their own food, and create a better tomorrow. And a couple months later, the pandemic hit. And you weren't, you know what happened. You were there. Ooh, I put way too much foundation on. So I could have grown a garden or two, but if you were trying to grow gardens or build anything in 2020, I couldn't get one piece of lumber with $1,000 or how much ever I had it. It was just so expensive. So that year I joined with another community garden, Beechwood Gardens in Rochester, and I had been through so much and I had been thinking about this so much. I realized that I didn't realize that I had never gardened. So that was my first time gardening, and it was great. The owner, or the organizer of Beechwood Gardens, so amazing, awesome. And I started connecting with everybody from the city that is a part of the gardening process and the gardening organizations, and that was really eye-opening. So I feel like I just used these 2 last years to gain some knowledge. I started following Roots and Refuge on YouTube, and I learned so much from Jess, and that so I just used these 2 last years to gain knowledge. And now, as of Christmas Eve, because I was thinking about it, but what I really want to do for my city is bigger than I've even talked to anybody about, because I know how I am. I know how emotional I am. And which people have, even when I was just talking about one garden, have been like discouraging and telling me, yeah, it's too much work and, blah, blah, or I've had people straight up laugh at me. I don't want to, say my plans out loud yet, especially when I have more support than I ever have right now. And it's January 8th, and I've been put myself out there for about a week now, and I have like 10 volunteers. I've had 5 people donate to my GoFundMe. I've had people donate seeds and all kinds of supplies, and be pretty awesome. Um, yeah, I really haven't expressed my real goal and what I really have in my mind and in my heart, because I don't want to hear people's mouth, to be honest. I don't want to hear anybody trying to shoot down my goals, because, and I'm going to say this, and I mean this nicely. I want better for the world. I want better for Rochester. And I'm a very nice person, but I'm really not the one to be rude to, because I'm going to be rude back. And I don't want to, put that out there. I don't want to have to do that. So, yeah, I just been keeping my goals to myself. But I mean, eventually I'm gonna have to start expressing them if I want people to support me and I want people to join me. So yeah, that is coming soon. So yeah, what else I was gonna talk about? We definitely have a mental health crisis. We need to be talking more about it. It is much worse than whoever is watching this probably even thinks. And hopefully I can, or we can, kind of curve that in Rochester a little bit by bringing some beauty, bringing some life. And, there's a huge issue when it comes to urban development. If you research all cities in this country, the difference in even trees, like there's so many more trees in wealthier neighborhoods than there are in poor neighborhoods. It's given intentional, and it's given intentional because it clearly is intentional. Like, why you take the trees for? Why you take our trees for? You don't want us to breathe oxygen? Okay, noted. So yeah, and another thing that really frustrates me, I guess you could say, is whenever there's a conversation about the problems that we're having, like as a society as a whole, there's always people talking about they. Like, they need to fix this and they need to do this and they're not doing it. When are we going to realize that they don't care and we have to be the ones that are going to do something about it? Because we're like, you waiting for them? When have they ever come through for us? Ever? Like, in the history of the world. Like, the people that are doing better off aren't, I don't want to get into that, but if we want to see change, we have to do it ourselves. Unfortunately, like, I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of pushback, but if we want to see real change to our situations, we have to make the change ourselves. And that includes being uncomfortable, and that includes doing things that might make our lives less convenient initially, but we have to take some responsibility for, even though a lot of the issues weren't caused by us, when we start taking that responsibility, then I feel like the veil is lifted off, and the people that are doing the things can't really do them anymore, because we're taking responsibility, and we're acknowledging that we see them, and we're acknowledging that you're not going to keep doing this. Like, we see you, and we're not helpless, and we can fix it. When we start fixing it, then they'll just be like, all right, like, back off. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm an optimist, sorry. I think my greatest obstacle with, achieving my plans for Rochester is the people that genuinely believe that the powers that be are just too great for us to do anything about it. And personally, I stopped believing that, anything is just too powerful or anything is just too great to do anything, because when I was in high school, my senior year in high school, I had this I was in media class, and that was the same year Obama was running for president. And I remember like the first interview he had with Oprah, I was like, oh my God, he's going to be the next president. And this white woman had the nerve to look me in my eye and with a serious face. Like she was like upset. She was like, not in your lifetime. And that is the sentiment of a lot of people. Like they know for sure. And that's my biggest problem. Like even like I started my GoFundMe over again, and my first 10 comments, well, not the first 10, but a lot of the comments were people like, what? Like, oh, wow, you can't do this, blah, 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 just join this organization. Like, first of all, those organizations are filled with people that aren't even from the neighborhood. And they're definitely not going into the neighborhoods that really, and I've no disrespect to any of the organizations that are gardening or, urban farming, but they're not on Conky where people, I don't want to say that. I have to cut this out because it's probably not true. I haven't really, but I just feel like there is more. And first of all, no matter what you want to do, if you have a calling to do it, do it. It doesn't matter how many people are doing it. Let me just say that first. I almost didn't add this, but I really like the way I contour. I just do like this half little macaroni noodle right there. And this is the only part of my face I contour. So I'm doing my makeup right now because, to be honest, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed because I really got back into, really reaching out to people and talking about 100 Gardens the last couple, not even the last couple weeks, like the last week or so. And it's a little overwhelmed. And, when you're, going through it overwhelmed, it's nice to just like, beat your face up a little bit and put a red lip on. And if anybody is like anti-contour and like, embrace your features, hush, please. Makeup is fun. Sometimes I want to look like, Barbie or a Bratz doll. And that's okay. I love doing my full face so I can go across the street to CVS and then come home and take it off and take a bubble bath. I just take bubble baths. Actually, don't smile. Don't move. Don't think. Don't breathe. I feel like I'm the queen of half of my bra strap showing. You know what? Since we're gonna have a long night of doing nothing and going nowhere, let's bake this baby again. Doing all this just reminded me of like walking across the country during and after, and everybody, most people's, like 90% of people's response, like, oh, I'm not doing all that. Oh, that's too much. And I'm like, well, don't do it. I'm not asking you to join me. Like, when somebody does something that's more than you would do, you don't have to tell them how you won't do it. Just don't do it. Like, we get it. I did the most. I get it. Got it. Like, walking across the country, like, oh, I wouldn't even walk to the car. Every town there was at least two people that were like, wow, I don't walk anywhere. Okay, I'm already doing it, babe. Like, okay, what that gotta do with me? Serious question. What does that have to do with me? I don't know. But anyway, so every time I do a video, I'm reminded of how lopsided my face is. And fun fact, that is from anxiety and constantly clenching your jaw. Your face eventually gets a little lopsided. So yeah, about that. That is a really fun fact for you. So, as a lot of people like to say, if you're anxious, just stop. Just stop thinking about stuff that makes you anxious. Oh, that's a silly thing to tell anybody ever. Okay. Sorry if you're triggered about how much setting spray I use. I do, in fact, use a lot of setting spray. Okay. Right. This is my favorite bronzer ever because it's the only bronzer I've ever been able to use. Like, for years, I never even thought about bronzer because bronzer was always not a thing for browner colored people. So I never even thought about it. But when Miss Rihanna Fenty came out with this, I went off. She went off, and then I went off. Then we went off together because I use this with no makeup. I just put a little boop, 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 and it just makes your eye, whatever this area is called, just structured, you know? Structured. It's given sculpture, babes. Babes, it's given sculpture. I know this video is all over the place and you're like, okay, you're doing your makeup, you're talking about like serious stuff. Like, what are you doing? I felt the urge to put on some makeup and talk to you guys. Sorry, my bad. So I had all these plans and I didn't write them down because I always think I'm gonna remember. It's gonna be more, it's gonna flow better if I don't write things down. I just like talk off the cuff, but maybe I should start writing things down. So yeah, that was why I walked across the country. I didn't actually walk across the country, but when somebody asks, I say I walk across the country because mind your business. That's why. But I did walk across the country. I walked further than you did. Now, what are you gonna say? Nothing, like I thought. What else? It initially wasn't really about 100 Gardens, but it was about 100 Gardens. I have a lot of things planned that I did write down coming up for 100 Gardens. I'm appreciating all the support that I'm getting, and even though there are a lot of people that write me and say kind of mean stuff, there are a lot of people that are super supportive, and I am very grateful for you. Um, I'm excited to start getting stuff, and uh, there's a lot of people donating things. I'm getting donations from probably Lowe's and definitely, well, hopefully still, what's the other one? Home Depot. Home Depot apparently, well, not apparently, I knew this since the 2012 when I first thought of this. Home Depot does donations a lot for community gardens, but it's first come, first serve. So hopefully I'm there in time. I have like flyers going out to the neighborhoods that the first gardens are on Central Park in my city. It's not going to be the one that I initially thought of near my mom's house, because the more I learned about gardening, that wasn't a really great space for a garden, especially a vegetable, fruits or vegetable. And another thing, we need to eat more vegetables, so we need to eat healthier. And that's another positive for gardens in the inner cities, because there's food deserts. There's food deserts in places where there is a lot of space for gardens. So people hungry, feed them with, the land. Or let's feed ourselves, because I'm acting like I'm not a part of that community. I'm definitely a part of that community. So if we're hungry, we need to feed ourselves and use what we have to our advantage. And I know it's not the people's fault, because everybody's just trying to work and survive, and that's not gonna come across your mind when you're, we know the system we live in now, and everybody has to, work so hard just to barely survive, and nobody has time to think about stuff and think about other ways and think about the ways we can uplift ourselves, because everybody is tired. They are tired and exhausted from, just trying to have the bare minimum. And that's understandable. But hopefully the community will be behind me or with me, beside me, and we can do this. I keep looking because, okay, I don't want to run out of my memory, which I've done several times, making videos, and I just give up. I don't want to do it anymore. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. I'm not saying I hope or anything anymore. I am looking forward to all the beautiful things we're gonna do with 100 Gardens in 2020. Our first garden is near our public market in Rochester in 253 Central Park, and there's two more within Central Park. There's an acre of usable garden land on one street alone that's not being used. And for some reason, I did the research on all the lots that are available, which unironically completely line up with redlining, but we're not going to get into that in this video because I'm being angry. But for what happened in 1977, because a lot of people foreclosed on their home in 1997. What happened then? I'm curious. Okay. What do I do next? I need to powder it down a little bit more. This is Manny MUA's powder. Oh yeah, it's one size, and I like it. It's really dark and chocolatey. Okay. right, I gotta do my eyeliner off because it's intimidating. I know it. So only I would think of something profound to say over eyeliner. So I'm sitting here doing my eyeliner, messing it up as usual. And I'm thinking, it's fine because I'm going to smudge it out. I don't really like eyeliner to be like, you know, shaped like that. Anyways, I don't like it to be, not harsh, but like to stand out like that anyway. And I had to tell myself, yes, you do. You just can't do it. And you try to convince yourself that that's not something you really want because you can't do it, even though you know you really, really want it deep down inside. You try to convince yourself that you don't want it because you feel like you can't do it. And that just like goes into everything. Like, don't convince yourself you don't want something just because you feel like you can't get it or it's unattainable for you, because that's a surefire way for you to not get it. Just like I said earlier, I referenced Jess from Rooted Refuge. She was talking about seeds and how a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know if these seeds are viable. If I get something from the grocery store, I don't know if it's going to work. I just throw it away or something. A seed is old. I just throw it away. And she was like, a surefire way for a seed to not grow is for you to not plant it. Like, just because you feel like something is unattainable or something's not going to work, the only way to know 100% is for you to not try. So, with that being said, how's my eyeliner? I know it's still messed up. I'm working on it though. Kinda. I'm probably gonna smudge it out. Okay, guys, this is it. I ain't going nowhere, and I just use all this makeup. But thank you for hanging out with me and listening to me rant. Don't like and subscribe this video. Like this video and subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be adding everything that goes on with 100 Gardens. I'm going to actually have another video tomorrow about this huge project I did, and it's going to be fun. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know what I achieved with this video. I just wanted to rant and, you know, let you guys know a little bit of information about myself and my past and what I plan for my future in my city. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good day or night or whenever you're watching this.